GitHub is kind of, it sounds like Git, and it's like a store your Git repository. So the previous page's repository in like a cloud web-based location. So then other people can interact with it, other people can see it, and you can have a more graphical interface with it. So it's important to know this because it's used at a lot of companies, and it might be used in your class projects like 276 and various other ones. I've used it in 383, I've used it in 433, I've used it in a lot of classes. There's also alternatives to GitHub that's like GitLab and this Bitbucket, and there's a few other ones that I've used before. So those are all just good alternatives to GitHub, but today I'm just going to be going through GitHub. So GitHub has recently made a change that you can't use your password when really doing a lot of the Git stuff. So you have to use the special personal access token. So you can get that through these steps. So you just log into GitHub, and then you go to the settings menu on the top right corner. You go into the development settings, generate a new token. You can get a new access token. You can just name it whatever you want, set an expiration date. There's a lot of options here, like you can just do a lot of business stuff, like automatic payments that you won't have to worry about. But there's also just these important ones that you can put stuff in the repo and remove stuff from it. So yeah, but you generate it once, so it's a bit annoying. You generate it once, and you have to, yes, please. You generate it once, and you have to store it somewhere and use it as like a password, kind of. So right now, I just have it in a text file that I just have on my clipboard, and I can use that in place of my password. So it's a bit more annoying because the string's usually long and unique, so it's hard to remember. But so the first step in starting with Git is cloning a repository. So you can go to just run this command in command line. We can make one here. So if we go new repository, we can just create a new repository. So Git tutorial, and then you can just make it private, public, readme, which is like a description file for your program. So you can have all your steps to start running your program and all the information about your program in there in a nice little file that is nicely shown. A Git Ignore, which does stuff like you can ignore certain files. So sometimes you'll have a executable file if you're doing like say C or C++ development that you might not want to commit the a.out or whatever you call it file. And you can choose a license, which is just the open source licensing choice. So there's a lot of options there. No questions yet. So the fundamental thing you'll cover in, I guess most of you will cover it in 127, will just be adding, committing, and pushing. So to do all of this, you first add a file like this. I'll actually just demo it here. I have a sample program that's just simple. It's just a hello world in C. And I can go add this project. It's called hello world.c. I can go commit it. And I didn't make any changes, so it's not going to let me make a change. And then I can go git push. It'll ask for my username. It'll ask for my password. And then it'll be pushed. So now if we go to my Git window here, I actually already made a Git tutorial, so I didn't have to go through the making sure it all worked. But if we go to this file here, we can actually see that it's hello world2, which is what we just made. So it's just these three simple commands of git add. So you can add all your files. It may be 1, it may be 10, it may be 100. You'll commit them with a message. So this is like your git commit message. This will be shown when people look back at your git change. You'll want to be really descriptive, and you'll really want to explain what you did. So if you did bug fixes, you could explain that. If you're just adding a new feature, you could explain that. If you have a bug, you could make sure to note all of that. And then this just adds it to your local Git copy of the changes, and then the push will actually just push it up to GitHub, and then you can see it like we saw just a bit ago. Next is the important thing of branching. So sometimes you'll want to work on a feature on a separate branch. Maybe you're in a group project or a company and you're working on some new page for a website and you don't want to be editing the main page and working with 10 other developers all trying to change the same sort of files at the same time. You'll use a branch. So the steps to create a branch, which I'll demo in a minute, are git branch, and then you create a branch name that'll make the branch, git checkout branch name that'll switch into the branch. This git push upstream origin branch will just allow you to be able to push and commit to it. And then git branch will just show you a list of all the branches you have. So this will just go in, create a new branch, go into the branch, and then allow you to push and stuff. So let's demo that. I'm going to create branch A. So I've made branch A. So if we go branch, you can see A is one of the branches listed here. Main, we can see it's green, and with a little star, you can see that that's the one we're currently focused on. Now you might do work with Git if you're in an IDE or something, so it'll be slightly different if you're doing like Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code or IntelliJ than it is to have this this done in the command line, which I'm going through. So you might have to look up a tutorial how to do the equivalent in those, but it's very similar for those. Next, we can do the git checkout branch, or the branch name. So that's A. So now we're switching into branch A, and we can see we're in branch A, and then we can run git push this command here. So this again just lets you be able to work in this branch. Great. So now if we make a change, so let's go add a new line. So add a new line to our code. So now we can go commit this because we're all done our implementation of it. So go back to the git add hello world.c, git commit, the same file, committing git push. Now it's pushing it into this branch that we made, branch A. You should probably be more descriptive in your branches names, but so now we are still in branch A, but we can now, I'll close this, and then we can go use the checkout command again to go back to our main branch, which sometimes called master, sometimes called main, but here it's called main. We go back into main, and now I open up this Vim again, this text file again, and you'll see that it doesn't have that line we made added in the branch, but it's not gone. It's just tucked away in the branch. So if we go back to we check out the branch again, and we open this back up, it's still there. So let's go back to so now what happens if I want to take that changed file and I want to add it to the main branch, right? I'm done implementing my feature. I'm ready to put it on the website or on your program, whatever you're working on. You're all done and you're ready to go forward with it. You do something called Git Merge. So there's a few steps to that. You start off in the branch that you want to merge into. So in this case, we want to merge into the main branch from this side branch, branch A. So we git checkout main, and then we go git merge, and then the branch name that we're pulling from. So remember that we committed all those files that were in branch A, and now we switched over to main, and now we're going to merge it into main. We run this merge command, and it brought it over. So now if I go git branch, we'll see that we're actually still in the main branch. But now if we open up this file, we'll see that we have this additional print statement. Good question. So you can, it's not a visual way, you can see them listed out. No, so you can, That's a good question. So the question is, can a merge only be done while you're in the main branch? No, you can merge between two side branches or into a side branch from the main file. I'm just doing it as an example, going to the main branch. So if I wanted to merge the other way, I could have merged from main into branch A. But there are nice views here that you can see actually all your branches. So we can see that I've been working in branch A and there's active branches here. If you had 10 or 15 branches, they would all be shown here as well. So that's the difference. I always use Git Merge branch. I'm not sure how different the functionality of it is for Git Rewrite branch, but I think it'll accomplish the same idea. So if you're doing a group project, the question is, if you're doing a group project, would everyone be working on the same branches, or would you each have your own individual branch? So you could each have your own branch. I could make a branch called Mitch and just only work in there and then commit it to the main one. Or you could do it per functionality. So say you're making this web page and you're making a new login screen, you can make a branch for the login screen, and everyone could be working as a part of that login screen, like maybe 2 people. And then once you're both done, it's all committed, it'll go back into the main branch and then you're done. Or you could do it completely separate and just have your own named branch. So I've done both. They both are good. Sometimes I'll do like Mitch _ login page, and then it'll be clear that I'm working on it and it's for the login page functionality. How do merges work when the code is significantly different? So when code is significantly different, that's what we're getting to next, you'll often run into this thing called a Git conflict. So this is when the 2 versions of the file are changed, so the Git doesn't know which one you want to keep. So maybe you'll be adding or changing lines in your branch, and then you'll want to bring it back over to the main one, but the main one's still working with that old version, so you doesn't just bring over the line. So I'm going to also demo that here. So let's go back into the side branch. Let's open this up. So let's add a new line. And let's delete part of this line. So now we've changed one of the lines, we've added a line, and now I'm going to go ahead and commit it. So I'm going to add it. I'm going to go git commit the message. Now it's committed in branch A. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the main branch. So now we're in the main branch again, and I will reopen this so we have a different prints. So let's say I want to add a new line that's testing, but I also want to change hello SFU. So I'm changing a line again, and I'm adding a additional line. Let's make this valid code. So now we've made a change in the branch, and we've also made a change in the main file. So they're both different, and they both have changes made. So what happens when we try to do something like, I've got to commit it first so we don't get that all messy, but git add, git commit. So you run through the git add, git commit, and git push commands a whole lot. So you'll get used to typing them out very quickly. So now let's make sure we're in the right branch. So you can go see it by git branch. We're in main. You can also see it in git status, which will show you it here, and it'll also show you all the files that we haven't yet committed that you might want to. In this case, it's an executable, so I don't want to commit that because you generally don't want to commit an executable because it's made custom for your machine, or it's just a larger piece of file, and you're gonna have to remember to update it every time you want to commit. So it's better to just have the person who clones your branch to just make their own executable. So let's remember the merge command that we used before. So we did a git merge, and we want to bring branch A into this. So we git merge branch A. It says, hey, there's a conflict here in this file. Please help fix it. So sometimes it tries to fix it itself, but in this case, since we made so many changes that kind of worked against each other, there was like one of them as hello world, one of them has hello SFU, a couple lines added and a couple edits. Otherwise, let's open up this this text file, and you'll see it's all kind of funky here. So it shows these 7 equal signs, the 7 greater than signs, and the 7 less than signs. That indicates like the changes. So in this case, the head, which is the main file, thinks that this file should be these 3 lines. So these 3 print lines, and it's denoted by this head, so we know that where we were, and that's the head. And in this bottom half is the other branch, so branch A. So this will be common to have issues when you're like working on a larger project that has stuff going on in the background, maybe in your controller files or your main functionality or whatever. That's kind of going to be changing all the time. Other people are going to be working on it, and then you're going to try to add your functionality, and then you're going to have run into some problems. So you'll have to figure out which lines you want to keep, which lines you want to get rid of. So in this case, I may want to get rid of all of the head, which is the main file, and just completely use my branch file. Or alternatively, I can just use the branch file, or I can use a combination. So in this case, maybe I don't want to run this testing line, and I don't want to run this Git line, but everything else I want to. So you'll have to remember to get rid of these Git merge conflict lines as well. But it's nice that there's like 7 of them in a row, because it's easy to like search in whatever IDE you're using. When you have thousands of lines, it can be difficult to locate where the issue was. But when it does that, you can just use whatever the search functionality is and find the lines pretty easily. So let's remember to save it, we'll close it, and now if I add that file, git commit, and we resolved merge conflicts together. Git push. And now if we open it up again, we'll see that it's the combination that we made. So we got rid of some of the lines that were like printf git, I believe, and another one, but we kept some of the other ones. So we kept the line 6 we can see here was from branch A, and kept that. We kept a few of the hello worlds, and we kept hello SFU. So you'll often run into more difficult commits, because the changes that happened weren't just, say, printf statements. They were actually like functional components that are like changing variables or setting variables. Like in this demo I gave here, the head thinks that this variable I should be set as 100, but the branch thinks that this variable should be set at 0. So you have to make sure that your changes that you're going to be making in your branch when you bring it over aren't going to mess with the main one, because you don't want to break somebody else's functionality that you don't know about when you're bringing in your own functionality. So you have to be really careful when you're doing that. And sometimes you'll run into conflicts where multiple files are changed and there's multiple conflicts. So you just have to make sure you go through all of them one at a time, resolving all of it, and then you'll want to probably test it, and then you want to commit it and add it, and then it's all there. So if we actually go back to the page here, the main page here, and we open up this, we can see that it actually just matches the file we have committed, because we're in the branch. We're in the main branch. So if we switch over to the A branch, we'll see what used to be in the A branch. Now there's another thing we can do, which is called, actually let me demo something first. So sometimes you'll be working on a bigger project. So this is an example of a bigger project. It's an open source game that people develop. So there's many files, there's many languages, there's many contributors, and there's a nice README down here. But the one things I want to show you is the issues page. So this is where, like, if you run into an issue with the program, this is where you can report it, and the developers can help fix it, or you can come here and try to fix the bugs. So in this case, there's random hundreds, thousands of bugs that are yet to be resolved, and we can click on one of them and see that there's some chat, and I can add comments on it and whatnot. So this is mainly for the bigger projects. You probably won't be doing stuff like that in your smaller group projects. You'll just know what the issues or maybe you'll use that, and instead of using like a Discord chat or using a Google Docs to share all the issues you're working through. There's also a discussions page, which is just like features and announcements and all of that. There's the project page, which shows, like, in this case, it shows some of the stuff that's being worked on and the progress of it. At work, I've used it for just showing which tasks are being worked on in progress, which tasks are finished, which tasks are low or high priority on the to-do list, and which tasks need, like, debugging. So all of that. Feel free to stop me if you have any questions. And then there's these pull requests. So when you're working in a bigger project like this with hundreds of developers and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of lines, generally you won't be working on a branch. So this won't be applicable for you working at a group project, but you working at a company, or even you working at a company, you won't be. But if you're working on some open source project or contributing to something like that, you'll have to make something that's called a pull request. So this is saying that your version, you want your version brought over to be the main version now. So I'll show you how to make that. And the thing that it grabs from is called a fork. So in this case, it's working off somebody else's project to take it in kind of a different direction or work on it on yourself. You can also just completely change the direction of something. So if somebody's making a website for a note-taking app, you can take that note-taking app and just completely change the functionality to be a note-taking app for car information. And then you can have drop-downs related to cars specifically and all of that, but you can use the core features of that original note-taking app. So if I go to my other GitHub here, this is my other account, I can see that I visited my current, this is my account that I've done all the commits on. If we open up this, we can see that it's exactly where we left it. And you can see that there is a fork button up here in the top right. If I click on this, I can fork it to my account here. And it'll take a second, but now it's on my own account. So if I go to my main profile page here, I'll actually see the CSSS tutorial, Surge tutorial right here. And then I can work on it here. So this is just basically equivalent to me having this project in my second account, but it's kind of completely separated until I make one of these pull requests. So I can open up a new pull request and then request that my changes are added. In this case, there's no changes or anything, so we didn't actually do anything, but usually you would make sure to just select all the files that you want to move over and all of that. There's some important final stuff to cover, like that I won't demo, but basically it's just, it's called tagging. So if you want to specify, like, say, version 5 of this printing program that we wrote, at a specific point in time, there's this major release, right? Version 2.0 that you'll hear about. But you want it to be permanently at one point in the main branch or whatever. You make a tag for that branch, and you can just you can refer to that name of that branch instead of referring to the commit names, which are always just like random string of characters that you're not going to like. I could have renamed that to be version 1.0 or whatever I want to do, and I can do all of that. So that's really useful for like bigger projects. And I've used it in a course once to just demonstrate like which specific commit is the one that should be looked at and all of that. So this is an important page as well. So this just shows what was changed. So in this case, on this commit that we did together, this was the merge one that we did a few minutes ago. We left this line alone. So both files had this line in common. So it's white. These two spaces are just nothing. We removed one of these lines. So we removed this printf that says testing, and then we added these two lines. So these two lines were from that side branch that we were working in earlier, branch A, and then we brought it over. So that's why this plus is here. That's why it's red, and that's why all of this is white. You can also leave a comment like great commit or something needs to be worked on, whatever you want to comment on it, and then you can go comment. So this is just useful for like, say, somebody's reviewing your code before it actually is finalized. They can easily just see what you've actually changed. So in this case, somebody might come in, another developer, and say that, hey, you should have left this testing line, but you should have gotten rid of this hello world 2 line because we didn't need that. You could have just, they could just comment that, and then you could go back, review that, and then you could go through and fix it. Yeah, are there any questions? That's pretty much it for the tutorial. There's a lot more to Git and GitHub, of course, but there's a lot more of just the fine-tuned stuff and all the quality of life sort of stuff that I won't cover. There's a lot of other like, yes, you can bring back the, you can see your old commits by going here. So we see we have 13 commits. So if I want to go back to the commit I made approximately the beginning of this tutorial, initial commit, you can see that this was the change, this was the file. So if I want to get, okay, I haven't done this in a bit because usually I don't reverse it. You see that there's this commit number here. If I copy and paste this, I believe I can do a git pull okay, I can't. I slightly forget how to do it exactly. I apologize. That's a good question. I should have included that in the tutorial. I needed to do a git checkout. So now I believe we're in the old commit. So hopefully, if I open up this, yes, it'll show me that just the 2 lines that just the initial printf. So it's no longer on the new version. And say I want to go back to here and make a new branch off because there was some feature that we deleted, and I want to keep that feature and bring it in later. We can do any of that. So that was just a simple grab of your commit. So you find the commit you want to pull from. There's a commit number here. That's just the long hash number. And then you just do a checkout to that. So it's similar how we were checking out a branch with a name like branch A or branch main or branch Mitch. We would do branch with that long number. Any other questions? So Git is definitely an improvement over doing it, like say in a shared Google Docs, because you can actually like see history and all of that. Like we just went back to an older version. That would be much more difficult, if not impossible, in something like Google Drive or SVU Vault or Google or Dropbox and whatnot. You can also like zip up all your files too, that works, but this is just a more improved method for keeping track of your history. You can see what changes were made between your different versions, all that really nicely and easily. We can just explore the Insights tab too. I like to go here for mine. So there's like a traffics page. It's not going to be very interesting because it's just going to be me visiting a bunch of times and me cloning this repository a bunch. But you can see like the growth over time. If you link it somewhere, your project, you'll be able to see like a spike when people start clicking it, all of that. So that's a cool thing to look for when you're doing that. So you can make a new issue here. I'll demo that. So printf says string. And now we have this, and we can go ahead and say, close the issue once we resolve it, we fix it, and we can just close it, and then it's all solved. Now, if we go back to the issues page, it's no longer here, it's under the closed tag. There's like I said before, there's a lot more finer tuner stuff that you can pick up and learn, but this is the core functionality of dealing with merge conflicts that you're going to encounter, dealing with being able to commit, being able to check versions, being able to do all of that. You'll be able to at least get that first start, and you'll be comfortable reading, say, documentation or watching tutorials that kind of jump right into it rather than just start at the beginning. Is this all that we need if we're working for a company in terms of our Git knowledge? Pretty much. I mean, I'm using Git at my current company, and I haven't, I've demoed everything that I've done for that, right? You really don't use it. You really don't need too much functionality. Now it's more complicated than what we did because it's not a 10-line program. It's going to be hundreds of lines, and you're going to be adding new files, and you're going to be deleting files, and it's going to be more complicated than that. But at the core, it's just git add, git commit, git push, and being able to merge and move around through your branches fluidly. I'm on a co-op term right now. I'm working at a construction company doing software development. And we use Git. At my previous co-op, I was working with SVN, which is another version control system that I'm a bit less familiar with, but I like Git more. And I've used Git in my 276 class and my 383 comparative programming class. I've used it in my embedded systems 433 class. I've used it in a few other classes as well. But I've also had the classes where people just insist on using Google Drive to do it instead of doing it properly in GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket, and it's a bit more annoying to deal with, but usually those are smaller projects, so it's okay. But I recommend using GitHub or using GitLab or something like that. But if you're doing a class project or something, you probably want to make it a private repository. Like this one, you can see it says public here. So this means that if you go to github.com/mgld/C++_tutorial, you'll be able to see all the commits we made. You'll be able to fork this program like we did in my other GitHub account, and do all of that. And it's great, like once you get comfortable with Git, you're going to be able to like say, Git in an interview, because a lot of companies use Git. Like Google uses it, Microsoft owns it and uses it, Twitter uses it, and a whole bunch of other companies use it. So any more questions? I think that's it for me then, if no one else has any questions.